Good day, colleagues. I've created somewhat of an overview of how we might think about this challenge of social relief or food security during this COVID pandemic. What you're looking at is really a flow chart from left to right, looking at the key enablers of solving this problem. Then in the middle there, the cluster of distribution channels, distribution mechanisms, and resources that have to work together. And then on the right-hand side, the outcome there of beneficiaries of various types receiving the benefit of this work. Now, what that allows us to do is to think about the various components that have to be integrated for this solution to emerge. And it allows us to ask a series of questions that we need to answer if we're going to build something effective and useful that addresses the problem. And so starting with it on the left, you'll see there two key enablers: data and funding or in-kind support. And we'll get into how we answer those. But in both instances, there would likely be a government source, a business source, and then a crowd-sourced source of data, or options in terms of getting data from those three sources. As well, then on the funding and in-kind side, a government, business, and then crowdfunding or societal source of funding or in-kind support. We'll get into what we mean there by partners, but at the center, we really are grappling with alternative forms of distribution, whether through SASSA, whether through grants, once-off transfers, etc., and how to do that, whether that's through vouchers, through tokens, through direct gifts, and then, of course, what content we're talking about. Are we talking about distributing cash, food, hygiene products, or other stocks? Now, those resources need to make their way through to beneficiaries through a series of access points, either via SMS, if it's a voucher, by pickup point or delivery point, if it's a physical form of transfer, from pay points, or through existing cards that are in the system. Now, to build this solution, the questions that we need to answer, I've listed there on the right-hand side. In relation to data, we need to answer the question of who is the beneficiary of this, where do we locate them from a geospatial point of view, and what their needs are. And we need to work on that problem. We also need to answer the question number 4 of how do we access them, and then what is the verifiability? How do we know that the right person is receiving this benefit? In terms of resources, the questions that we need to answer are: what are the resources that we want to give? If it's food, what food are we talking about, in what quantities, etc.? What's the scale of that resource, if it's financial or if it's otherwise in-kind contribution? How will that be paid for? How will that be funded? And then for what duration do we make the commitment to provide this relief? You'll see that these questions do follow sequentially, logically, and then on the back of the first two, the data and the resources, we will need to answer the questions from a distribution point of view. How do we distribute? Where do we distribute? When do we distribute? What's the cycle of how that distribution takes place? And then we might want to use this in an innovative way and say, what are the goals and the ends of distribution? Is it simply relief? Is it, do we use behavioral nudging and other forms of intervention to drive societal behavior through this process? Critically then, number 15 there, under point 4, around partners. Who do we do this with? Across these different activities, who are the partners that we need to work with? Now, answering those questions will raise a whole set of other questions that are important in executing this, including who is going to lead each of these components or champion them, number 16. Number 17, what are the timeframes that we want to impose on answering these questions and executing on this project? And number 18, what are the obstacles that we need to overcome in doing so? Number 19, what are the regulatory or other legislative or other blocks or bottlenecks in doing so? Number 20, what are the risks that we need to manage? And then number 21, what are the politics or the turf wars that need to be fought or navigated in order to execute this? I hope this has been helpful. I look forward to working with you and talking through this with you if the opportunity is there to do so. Thank you.